This is an MSI X299 Gaming Pro Carbon AC, and this is not a review. The reason it's not a review is that I do not have any of the new X299 chips. This isn't just because, you know, a tiny channel. There are a lot of bigger people that don't have chips because for some reason Intel decided just to not seed basically anyone that wasn't, you know, hex this kit guru kind of folks. So that is very annoying. They also didn't seed motherboard partners like they normally do, and they're not giving chips to distributors until basically the day of sale, which I think is the 26th. So if you do want to pick one of these boards up and you want to pick up one of the chips with it, the 26th is the date you can actually go buy them from retailers. But nonetheless, this is going to be a sort of a feature overview of this board, which will kind of carry across to a lot of the other X299 motherboards that are going to be available as of either today or a couple days time. I should also address the extra box that's here, which is sort of a customized thing from MSI. It came with sort of TechteamGB branding on it, as a few other people got them as well. These are the covers that go on the rear I/O shield, the VRM heatsink, the audio sort of heatsink, and the chipset heatsink as well. They are all replaceable. You do actually get your own in the box. Think silver and gold inside the box as standard, as well as obviously I personally and a few other reviewers get blue and gold versions with TechteamGB engraved on them, so that is quite nice. Actually, while we're speaking about those, just a quick note, they are horrific to get off. It's a nice idea. It's nice to be able to customize the board. Obviously, the actual board itself is fairly neutral in aesthetics, being mostly just black and silver, but with those things that you have to really pry and try and get off, it is very difficult to replace them. Anyway, moving on to the new main features of the motherboard, especially being X299, this has the new sockets. It's LGA 2066. This is not backwards compatible with any X99 or X79 CPUs, and you will only be able to use the new X299 socket 2066 Skylake X and Kaby Lake X CPUs. Those two are the new CPU lineups. So basically they're the exact same, or the Kaby Lake CPUs are the exact same CPUs as the i7 7700K and the 7600K, just with a bigger sort of die package on them so that they can actually fit in this new socket. They also have the integrated graphics chopped off as well, whereas the Skylake X were the chips that we were actually expecting from this launch, which are I think up to 12 core at this point in time, with the 7900K, although again they're releasing some new chips in the next couple months as well, sort of as a reaction to Threadripper, so we'll have to see how those work as well. But nonetheless, in theory that should all be supported, although BIOS updates are going to be definitely recommended. Of course, these are still quad channel motherboards as you would expect from the X299 platform, although if you do buy a Kaby Lake X CPU, 4 of these slots will not work. They will only work in dual channel mode, which again is really just incredibly stupid, the fact that you buy a CPU and it may or may not support half of the RAM slots in the motherboard, so really not pleased about that one. The rear I/O is also new in these boards, especially a USB Type-C support. Obviously standard gigabit Ethernet on most of them. Some boards are coming with dual gigabit Ethernet and some are coming with AD Wi-Fi. Of course, this one in its AC name obviously comes with AC Wi-Fi, which is still very nice, but obviously there are a few other options available, likely for a higher price though. When it comes to PCIe slot configuration, this is also just incredibly insane as well. Again, Kaby Lake CPUs only have 16 PCIe slots, so you're only really going to be able to use maybe the top 2 in that sense. There isn't any way to effectively add extra PCIe lanes, so if you do add multiple graphics cards or things that are using more than 16 PCIe lanes or can't be shared, so say 2 graphics cards in X8 configurations, then this is going to get very, very complicated and may just straight up not work. The higher end chips have 44 PCIe lanes, which is very nice and will mean that you can make use of the 2 M.2 slots as well as the X16, X8, X16 and X8 slots, as well as obviously the 2 X1 slots there as well. The board has some nice new connectivity, especially from the front panel with the standard you know, USB 3.0 front panel header, as well as the new 3.1 I think Gen 2 header, which is meant to support USB Type-C, so that is quite nice to see as well. You also have the easy overclocking dial next to to the 2 upright SATA ports at the bottom and the U.2 port and 6 more SATA ports. At the top on the right hand side of the board you have some nice overclocking features in terms of debug LEDs and a debug display, and especially if you are overclocking, make sure you are using the 8 and 4 pin CPU power connectors, as these are X299 chips and they do get pretty power hungry. I think some of them are at least 165 watts if not more now, so that is kind of crazy. Jumping back down to the bottom of the board, right next to that easy overclocking dial is something that I never thought I would see in gaming PC hardware, and especially on motherboards, let alone anything else, and that is effectively DLC. This is an insane thing, but apparently we're living in fantasy land anyway, so whatever. But basically this VRAID header is the header that allows you to connect the VRAID key. This is an extra optional purchase if you want to unlock features that the board already has but that you apparently haven't paid enough for. This basically allows you to use the PCIe slots if you have the right chip, by the way. Also you need to pay extra for more PCIe lanes. Great. If you do that and do all of those things, you'll need to also buy the VRAID chip or key so that you can then actually access certain RAID modes from the motherboard. So if you want to RAID NVMe SSDs, especially stuff like Intel's ones, because I think it's actually locked down to only Intel's SSDs as well, then you need to pay extra money for that. So yeah, quite a crazy thing that I really don't understand why that is locked down to Intel SSDs and why you need to pay extra money for features that are clearly already on the board. The board does also have some nice RGB effects thanks to Mystic Light and a header down the bottom if you want to connect up any RGB LED strips. I would show you this, and hopefully when I do get my hands on a CPU or two, I will be able to showcase this board and a few other ones that I have coming as well with the new CPUs and the aesthetic functions that they provide. But of course you do also have the hardware RGB elements in terms of the added sort of bits that you can change out. So I guess that's kind of it. If you want to know more about these boards, I'll leave some links to the launch reviews in the links in the description down below, and of course if you want to check this one out, I'll leave a link to Amazon as well for you and Overclockers UK. Also, if you want to know any more about these chips, I did a video on the sort of launch from Computex as well, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave that on the screen over here and the cards up above. Otherwise, let me know what you think of this launch. Are you interested in seeing X299 motherboards, or do you want to get back to Ryzen and build guide and stuff like that? Let me know in the comments down below, and be very interested to hear from you. Otherwise, as I said, that's kind of it. I don't really have much more to say. If you've got any questions, as I said, leave them in the comments down below and I will try and answer them as best as I can. Although at the time of filming, the chips are just completely elusive and I can't even buy one to test it, let alone anything else. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it really. Yeah, check out some of the videos over here and the subscribe button over this side. If you do want to check out some more X299 content, feel free to subscribe, and I will be doing a few bits and pieces here and there at least. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next video. Like, at least lie to us and say that the VRAID key does something magical, like helps with processing, rather than literally just saying, give us more money because we need it for some reason, even though we made 14 billion last year in profit alone. I really don't understand this launch at all. Like, normally, like with this sort of stuff, it's, Intel sends chips to motherboard vendors, and for smaller channels like me, motherboard vendors are able to give you a CPU for even just a couple of days just to test it out, show off the BIOS, and have a quick go overclocking and then send it back. So like I'm used to that, I can deal with that, but the fact that Intel didn't bother to send the chips to the manufacturers, didn't bother to send chips to anyone at all, basically, unless you reach millions of people, really is kind of disgusting and is really very anti-consumer, and the VRAID stuff is stupid as hell. Yeah, don't like it. I got a bad feeling about this.